The Bible indicates that the Jewish temple will be rebuilt on the Temple Mount after the rapture and during the first part of the 7-year tribulation period. Are there any signs this temple is close to being rebuilt today? In our research in Israel, we discovered that the rebuilding of the Jewish temple is not just talk, but an extremely well-organized plan that is already being implemented by Jews in Israel today. All right, Jimmy, the temple is going to be rebuilt someday, but it's certainly not in existence now, and it's the most controversial piece of real estate in the world. What's going to happen?
Well, let me just remind everybody of the scriptures. Daniel 9:27, in the midst of the week, that 7-year period of time between the rapture and the second coming of Christ, there has to be a temple there. Jesus confirmed that, Matthew 24:15, when you see the abomination of desolation. Apostle Paul confirmed it, 2 Thessalonians 2:4, Antichrist walks into the temple, the abomination of desolation takes place. And in Revelation chapter 11 and verse 1, John is told to measure the space for the temple. So we have 4 proof texts there will be a temple on the Temple Mount. The rapture has to happen. At that point, when the Antichrist appears in the beginning of that 7-year tribulation period, he confirms a peace agreement. The Jewish people lay down their weapons. They think they're at peace. They think the Messiah has come. There's a coalition of nations coming in to the area of Israel to wipe them off the face of the earth. Well, Jesus Christ intercedes. And in Daniel chapter 11 and verse 45, it says that the Antichrist, after the Lord has given the victory to the Jewish people, the Antichrist usurps that victory and tells the Jewish people to put their temple up on the holy mountain of God there in the city of Jerusalem. At that point, they build a temple. The temple is built. It has to be up before the midway point of the tribulation, and it's going to be standing there. They restore the temple sacrifices and everything else. There is one problem, though, John. Everything has been prepared. They have the utensils. They have the men who've studied the priestly duties. I met recently when I was in Israel with the man who is the chairman of the Sanhedrin, the 70 wise Jewish scholars that operate the temple. He said he has his garment hanging in his closet in his home, ready to put on and report to the Temple Mount. So all the preparations have been made. There's one problem. That gold dome building, the Dome of the Rock, sits on the spot where the temple has to be erected there on the Temple Mount. And I've got to tell you, during the Gulf crisis, when I first moved to Jerusalem, we would hear the siren warning of an incoming scud. Most of us ran into our sealed room, put on our gas mask. The Jews living in the Jewish quarter in the old city of Jerusalem ran to the Temple Mount, started to pray, "Dear God, let one of those scuds hit the Dome of the Rock." Of course, scud is an acronym for sure could use direction, because Saddam didn't know where they were going. But I believe that's what's going to happen. In that battle at the beginning of the tribulation period, when these nations are attacking Israel, one of their missiles is going to take down the Dome of the Rock. They put the temple up. I mean, I could just go for the next hour or two about the personalities who believe it's about to be put up. One of my dear friends, an Orthodox Jewish man named Gershon Solomon, he has the cornerstones to put on the Temple Mount to start construction of all that God said will happen during the tribulation period. All the preparations, every player I've talked with, I know I love them, and they're ready to put the temple up. All we need to do is wait for the rapture. The rapture happens first, then all of these things unfold.
Okay, the Jewish temple is put up, and the fact is the Antichrist goes in and desecrates it, the abomination of desolation, and then there's persecution of the Jews, and then we come to the end, the Battle of Armageddon, and then you have Jesus Christ coming back, and he's going to come, and what's he going to do on the Temple Mount?
Well, when he steps down on the Mount of Olives, Zechariah chapter 14, verse 4, it says that Mount of Olives will split from the west to the east. That means the Temple Mount's destroyed. That means that tribulation temple is destroyed. The book of Ezekiel, chapters 40 to 46, 202 detailed verses of how Messiah will build his temple. Zechariah chapter 6 and verse 12 says that Jesus will build the temple, and then verse 13, he will rule and reign from that temple. Zechariah 1 verse 16, Jesus said, "I am coming back to Jerusalem to build my temple. That will be the millennial temple. After his second coming, that 1,000-year period of time when Jesus will rule and reign from the temple in Jerusalem.